You're listening to the Super Expander podcast. Aligned goals are pivotal for expansion. You don't need me to tell you that. But what happens when your flame weakens? What really happens when it totally goes out? Reignite your goals starts with awakening to the emotions that pull you further and further away. Letting go of your shame, denial, and frustration, and figuring out why your body is resisting your goals are the key to success. Regulate your nervous system, release the blocks, and reassess your path forward because your goals are ready to be reset and reignited. Welcome back, Super Expanders. How are you feeling? How is your heart today? How's your nervous system? How are we feeling? Are we feeling regulated? We are going to dive in today because I want to share with you some things that I personally have implemented over the last 10 months or so in a deeper journey to regulate and protect my nervous system and the actual direct impact that it's actually had on my life and my business. So I sat down to make a list because I thought this could be valuable. It's really, talking about the science and all these like kind of deep things when I was doing these episodes. But sometimes actual real relatable life stories it's easier to see yourself in them and see how maybe these things are impacting you in your life, your nervous system, and how they might translate into your business. Okay, so I started thinking about what was the process I went through because, I was in a place when I started this that I was doing breath work. I was feeling really great, but in between sessions, I needed more, right? Because the breath work would carry me for a few hours, but then I found myself kind of like falling back into patterns. So what I started to look at was what were the things that were causing me to feel dysregulated. And so the first thing that I completely cut out was TV and movies. And this is probably much harder for some people. It was not hard for me because I already barely watched television, but specifically also like other media outlets, like consuming news and that sort of thing. And I had already pretty much almost completely stopped consuming news around the beginning of COVID, but I had these like notifications coming in from Twitter on certain things, and I just found that every time they were coming through, it was really, really putting me into a state. So I completely unfollowed those outlets and I turned the notifications off. I would love to tell you that I'm completely not even on social media, but that is not the truth. I just have put in some really, really serious boundaries and parameters of how much time I'm spending there, how I'm using it with deep intentionality. And I really wouldn't want to completely give up social media because I have met some of the coolest people, some of the coolest guests that we've had here on the Super Expander podcast, or because I met them once on social. I reached out and I asked for them to come and be on the podcast. So I don't have a bad relationship with social media. And in fact, if you were to actually look at my discovery feed, it's nothing but puppies. Really, it's nothing but puppies. So I don't really get fed toxic things on like Instagram or even on Facebook, where the one was coming in, like these news notifications was coming in through Twitter. And I had that because, you kind of feel like you want to stay connected to what's happening in the world. Like it seems irresponsible not to, but I feel like when it sends your nervous system into dysregulation, that's irresponsible. So I completely turned off notifications on Twitter and unfollowed the things that were making me feel anxious and worried and those sorts of things. And then the other thing was completely cutting out extremely strenuous exercise. Now, I exercise all of the time. I mean, you can take the girl out of a fitness career, but you cannot take the fitness out of the girl, right? I am an avid exerciser. I walk minimum of 5 miles a day. And on top of that, I do Pilates and I lift and I do yoga. But there had been a period of my life where I was lifting, and I was lifting hardcore and doing a lot of HIIT. And so I really just decided it was not good for my body. And the truth is, I recently did an epigenetic profile of my own personal genetics of what is good for me. And I'm really excited because I am actually going to be offering this to my one-to-one clients because it is such an insightful test. It's an actual lab test where you swab the inside of your mouth and it gives you back this complete deep dive into all of the things uniquely you to help you perform better, to protect your health, to make sure that certain diseases don't happen to you because you're more prone to them. So there are certain things that we can do in our daily habits and practices that can help protect us from actually ever flipping that switch on. And it's something that basically I feel like everybody should do, and at the youngest age that you can possibly do it. And it translates into, if you start following it and taking these sorts of actions, and also instead of taking a million supplements that you need or even process, you're wasting money, but also you might not be supporting the things that you actually need. So I started following my own personal epigenetic profile based on the recommendations that showed up from that, which are completely unique to me. And part of that was letting go of extremely strenuous exercise because it was causing stress, the bad kind of stress, on my body, on my joints, and on my nervous system. Yep. So those are 3 things that I did, which was letting go of the extreme exercise and then also actually following my own epigenetic profile. And then I started to do an audit of my relationships and the people who are in my life that drain my energy. They are no longer a part of my life in the way that they had been. And that could be family, it could be friends, it could be clients, it could be colleagues, and it's not always an easy thing, but you are the master of you and your energy, and the only way to protect it is to implement these boundaries. And some of it means actually ending relationships and having difficult conversations, or it's putting really specific boundaries in place. I promise you, if you start to look at your life and do this kind of audit, it is one of the most impactful things for your own personal energy, but also for regulating your nervous system. The next thing was I stopped explaining myself, right? If no was a no, that is a complete sentence. Telling people why I'm doing things, that over-explaining, spending time and energy and getting upset or trying to convince someone, that is really taxing on your nervous system. So I don't do that anymore. I also stopped saying yes to things that aren't aligned, which means that I have gotten very good at saying no. Yes, got very good at saying no, because when we say yes to things, we're saying no very often times to ourselves, to our own health, our own well-being, things that we need to be attending to, thrusting us into massive amounts of stress because we don't have the time, the bandwidth to be able to put into something. But instead of experiencing the discomfort of saying no, we actually go to a greater length and say yes and put ourselves basically in harm's way, not like standing in front of a car, but like experiencing really profound stress, which has a very chronic, long-term effect on your body and your nervous system. I have a question for you. Have you joined the Super Expander free mentorship community? If not, what are you waiting for? Stop what you're doing right now and text the word mentor to 202-918 3235. Text the word mentor to 202-918-3235. I send out weekly tips and inspiration to help you grow your business, to step into your wealthiest, most highest self, to harness your full potential and live an exceptional and extraordinary life. And the best part is, it's really me sending those messages. So text me, say hello, and send me your questions. Here's a big one: investing based on FOMO. Yes, guilty as charged. There's so many times I have bought something, and that could even just be like whether it's an item, a possession, based on FOMO, or invested in a program, a course, a mentor, because I felt like everyone else was doing it, or for whatever specific reason, or because of the success that they had, I thought by just investing that it was going to get me there. And the problem is if it puts you in a financial position of stress, that is completely the wrong investment. But if you're not investing in things based on pure alignment, it is never going to put you in a better place, right? The energy and intention that goes into it when you invest is going to cause a negative outcome, further dysregulating your nervous system. Plus, if you're investing from that place, just even the start of the investment starts to dysregulate the nervous system. I gave up, here's the next one. I gave up working 12 hours a day, which is pretty much what I was doing for a really, really long time. And overworking is a trauma response. It is due to a multitude of things, but it's kind of this like terrible cycle, right? We are dysregulated, so we work more, we become more dysregulated. So this was a big one. Really at the beginning of 2022, I started shifting around this. had hit a place where like I can't do it anymore. I've experienced deep burnout multiple different times, but I guess fully didn't embody those lessons. I took pieces of them, but then thought that I was fine. I'd healed. I was good. I could go again. And the truth is what has been required of me in this past year was to get really clear, to receive the lessons, understand them, fully embody them. And many, many lessons have come through on the why. And that, we all have the same amount of time in every single day. And I know that you all have to know someone who is able to get so much done in a short amount of time. And it's because there are certain things in place. A, they have a regulated nervous system. They have their clear eye, like their focus on their one thing, and they aim their energy at it every single day. And by doing that, it actually opens up more time and space, which again brings us back into a better state of handling stress. This one is a big one. So all these that I'm telling you, none of them are in like specific hierarchy or order here. I'm just kind of like throwing out all the things that I have done over the last 10 months or so, and there's 11 of them. Not the last thing. The next one is I don't respond to all text, emails, and DMs, maybe even ever, but I definitely don't feel compelled to respond to them promptly. We have in this hyper-connected world fallen into this place and space where we think that we have to respond instantly. And you don't, right? You don't. So a couple little tricks that I have in place are, notifications off on all social platforms. When I go in to check, I know I'm going in with intention. I prepare myself for that sort of thing. I give a certain amount of time. And then for my emails, I actually only check twice a day. So I check in the morning and I check in the evening before I close it off. And I don't mean evening before bedtime, like before I shut it off, at work. And so there are 2 times that I spend looking at email and responding to email. Such a game changer. This kind of plays off that. I gave up allowing my attention to be divided. So the thing about this is there is no such thing as multitasking. So if you look at your computer and you've got 40 tabs open, that's a distraction. You are not working fully on one. So whatever it is that you sit down to do, give all of your attention to it, and a few things will happen. You're going to get done whatever you're supposed to get done faster, which is way less stressful. You're going to feel better about it. The quality of work is going to be better, whether it's work or even if you're sitting down to have a conversation with someone, like look at them in the eye, engage, give them all of your attention. I promise everything in your world will start to shift and change, and your nervous system will become more regulated. I promise you. And then the last piece is I have moved my business structure and model away from being so one-to-one heavy, right? So much more of the business structure that I'm working with now are group programs, multi different ways to work with me in a group context. I still offer one-to-one, but it's to a much smaller group than, or like a much smaller pool. I don't carry as many one-to-one clients. That was because it's taxing on your energy. It's a lot you pour into just that 1 hour or longer with one person. And we can give the same level of service very oftentimes in a group context. And we are beings of community, right? So when we're in community and in a group, we often get more out of it. So I feel like the people that want to do one-to-one or need to do one-to-one, sometimes it becomes a schedule, right? Because of a certain dynamic in where you are in your career or your life, you need to be able to, do certain times that might not be fit in the realm of group coaching, or perhaps you're dealing with something really, really deep that you don't want to expose to a group. I totally understand that. Although there's a lot of deep healing that can come in a group context, as long as it's within the same, like within a safe, highly trained and curated group. So these are the 11 things that I did to completely start to regulate my nervous system. Now let's talk a little bit about all of the impact that it actually started to have on my business and what the success that it started to translate. So through doing all of these things to regulate my nervous system, I started to gain time back, right? More open space in my calendar to focus, to do the things that bring me joy, to fill my cup, to rest, all of those things, which translate into better productivity, more energy in my business. When I started to put these things into place, I started attracting soul-aligned clients. My programs filled with soul-aligned clients. I started showing up with this new depth of energy that I had never experienced before. And there had been a period of time where I felt like content creation was just not my thing. When I started to have this open space and elevated energy, guess what started happening? I started to be able to create potent content, and actually enjoy the process. My energy and excitement completely through the roof. Not only that, I started noticing that instead of hustling, I was attracting. So I wasn't having to go out and fight for everything, which also meant that now manifesting the things that I desired started happening and started rolling in. Deeper connections started happening within my community, in all of my relationships in life, in business, all of that. And we all know that business is all about connection and community. My focus began to become next level. I would say I'm not sure I've ever had this kind of focus in my entire life. And of course, lastly, all of these things that started happening, they have translated into inviting more income into my business. So yes, nervous system regulation is truly a business strategy. I'd love to hear from you what you think about this. If I have your ear now, you're feeling a little bit more curious, I'd love to open a dialogue with you if you have any questions. And of course, I'd love to invite you inside of one of my programs if this feels aligned for you. We are working in pretty much every single group container that I am leading, nervous system regulation is a foundational piece. So I will catch you on the next episode. Like a fire needs oxygen and fuel, You're not meant to reach your goals alone. Your missing part could be as simple as finding the right community. And if it's not my community, there's definitely the right one out there for you. If you're looking for a place to start, check out the link in the show notes and let this community help you breathe in fresh oxygen.